And I'm going to see if you know much about, well, actually, where is Tyler here? Tyler is not here today. Tyler, you're there. Oh, Tyler is ignoring me.
Can't get my button to work. I'm here though.
All right, you hear me, Tyler. Well, I am just bringing this up because you actually already asked me about this a week or two ago. So,
Yes, Mr. Laffer.
that's the Laffer. Yes. So the legend goes first like this. Back in the late 70s, a young economist, Arthur Laffer, was living down in DC, and he was hanging out with two young politicians, the rising stars. One young politician, his name was Dick Cheney, and the other young politician, his name was Donald Rumsfeld. And now, things like Brett knows who I'm talking about. Well, Dick Cheney, hopefully most of you know who I'm talking about. It's our former vice president, or that was his last post, vice president during second Bush's administration. Rumsfeld, his last post was Secretary of Defense in Bush's administration, but they were active politicians in the 80s. They were part of older Bush's administration and then younger Bush's administration. Um, and if any of you have seen movie W about Bush, there's a lot of talk about those two in the movie. All right. So anyway, the legend goes, those three guys, young guys, very good friends, they were getting together for lunch pretty much every day. And one day, Laffer sketched something on the napkin and showed it to the other two. Brent, are you reacting to the story or?
Yeah. I think I've heard of this before. Whenever you said the napkin. Okay.
All right, very
Continue.
good. All right, so he sketched something on the napkin and showed it to the other two. The other two looked at it in disbelief. They were so impressed, they grabbed that napkin and rushed back to Capitol Hill to share it with others. All right, so where is the story coming from? Where is the legend coming from? Well, it is true that the theory was developed by Arthur Laffer, a young economist, but it's also true that unlike most theories that are kind of sitting within academia and are being researched before they're pushed out, this theory seems to have been embraced by politicians right away without much research. And even today, you do hear references to the supply side fiscal policy, even though it was not really researched that much. All right. Now, given the time period, given what you know, what's the nickname for this school of thought?
Don't know.
No. Curtis doesn't know. Tyler, do you know?
Nope, I don't know.
All right. So the time period is not helping. The theory got developed in the late 70s, embraced in the 80s.
Trickle down?
It is trickle down economics, yes, trickle down economics, and one more nickname, even catchier.
Voodoo economics?
Well, actually, yes, but
I took that from Ferris Bueller.
something else.
Bidenomics.
Yes, Curtis, you see, you know it. You said you didn't know, but you actually know. That's Reaganomics, yes. Reaganomics, something that got embraced in the 80s during the Reagan's administration. So it has a nickname.
Oh, like Bidenomics.
There is Bidenomics, is what that term is being used as well. But
That's funny.
Reaganomics, yeah, was really referring to this theory in particular. All right, so very good. All right, so that's so it's the theory now. It has a nickname, Reaganomics, even though it was embraced by both Reagan and his big friend Margaret Thatcher of UK, and actually somewhat better results are visible in UK and US as a result. All right, but let's first see what the theory is about. Let's look at that Laffer curve, and then we'll go from there. So, supply-side fiscal policy focuses on tax issues which alter incentive to work, save, and invest. So, unlike Keynesians that were saying give people more money and then they're going to go out and buy new TVs and go on vacations. Supply side economists are saying no, there is the other side of people as well. So give people more money and it's going to alter their decision to work or not to work. That's going to alter their decision to invest. That's alter going to their decision to invest and save and invest. So focuses on tax issues which alter incentive to work, save, and invest. And they are saying that we're going to observe not only a short-run impact, but also a long-run impact. So changes in taxes will cause changes in the SRAS, as well as changes in the long-run aggregate supply. So the impact is not going to be only a short run, but also long run. And they derive all their conclusions from the so-called Laffer curve, which Laffer curve shows that a tax rate reduction, all right, so lowering taxes, cutting taxes, can actually increase tax revenue. So government cuts taxes, we end up with more money in our pockets, and government ends up with more money in their pockets.
And why would that be a bad thing?
No, that would be a wonderful thing.
But that's why I asked you a couple weeks ago, because some people that I heard talked about it as if Mr. Laffer is a crazy guy. They had all these negative things to say, and they really couldn't back up real tangible evidence. So that's why I wanted to ask you, because you're an economics teacher, and I knew you would know. And I wanted to get the real deal, honest truth about this man.
All right.
Because what he said was what you're saying now sounds like it makes more sense.
Yes, it makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense. And now we're going to look at the graph, and then we're going to take it from there to what you're saying, Tyler. But all right, so let's go to the whiteboard and let's look at this Laffer curve. All right, so.
Is this what he drew on the napkin?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. All right, so here comes the napkin. Now,
you called him crazy.
Now, Tyler is saying that some people are calling him crazy and criticizing, and actually, there are two stories of how it went about. There are people that are saying he drew it on that napkin, and then there is the other camp that's saying he drew it on toilet paper. So it's basically telling you what two sides felt, how they felt about what was drawn on that whatever napkin or. All right, so
that had to be sturdy toilet paper. that had to be like the like the good stuff.
Yeah,
like,
quilted.
Yeah,
they were in a high-end luxury restaurant. You know it was some good stuff.
All right, so here we go. Laffer curve has tax revenue on the vertical axis and the tax rate on the horizontal axis. And so tax revenue on vertical, tax rate on horizontal. Tax revenue, that's the dollar amount. That's what the US government is going to receive from us. And then tax rate is the percentage, meaning what they're going to charge us. Now, if government charges us 0%, they're gonna get 0 revenues, right? If there are no taxes, government will get 0 taxes. So we start here at the origin, that's 0, 0. All right, let me test your thinking. If government charges 100%, so the tax rate is 100%. So remember, you are now paying maybe 8-9%, depending on your income level. As a student, probably definitely not more than that. So that's what you're paying right now. But let's say that the tax rate is 100%. All right, that's the tax rate. What will the government get? And I want exact dollar amount of what the government is going to get if the taxes are 100% of your income. Expecting the answer much faster than this.
I think it's 0.
All right, who
You're not
said
getting
it?
anything.
Well, who was saying it first? Was it Tyler?
I'm
If the
not sure.
government charges us 100%
Yeah, wait,
That's all your
Curtis,
money.
of what
Curtis,
I
hold
owe,
on, hold on,
I
Curtis,
mean,
a second.
um,
Tyler was trying to say something.
Oh no, I was letting Curtis rock out, but no, I was just saying 100%. That's all your money you made. It's crazy.
Okay, all right. You're saying everything. So come on, let me see your people.
but see, the percentage of 100% of my pay,
Yes.
he still would be broke. But 100% of my pay would be like,
We don't want to know just about your pay, but overall, what will government get if they charge us 100%? Where is your street smart?
get beat up
Right.
trying
Anything.
Hussein is trying to say something.
Yeah, everybody won't be able to work then if he's gonna get like 100%. So I'm not gonna work. So the government will end up taking 0 though from everybody.
Excellent, Hussein. Excellent. You know it. And all the rest of the class we're gonna hire to work for us. They're willing to work and give all their money away to us. So very good, Hussein. So yes, if government charges you 100% of your income, who in their right mind is going to go and work? If they charge you 100% of your income, you don't bring anything home, so you may as well sit at home and not go and work. So the next point on the Laffer curve would be somewhere here, where the tax rate is 100% and government will get nothing. So if taxes are at 0, government gets nothing. If taxes are at 100%, government gets nothing. What's in between? Well, in between is a Laffer curve or a parabola. So there is a parabola in between, which is not necessarily symmetric parabola, meaning the peak is not at 50%, but it depends on each individual society where it is. Okay? So what is this parabola saying? Well, if there are no taxes, you don't pay anything. Then all of a sudden they introduce taxes and we all have to pay 1% of our income to the government. We're all going to complain about it, but guess what? We're gonna obediently continue to work. Then they're gonna raise it to 2%, to 3, to 5, to 7, to 10, to 20. And all of a sudden, what the Laffer curve is saying, we're gonna reach that threshold, whatever that threshold is. All right, so right here, whatever the threshold is, we're gonna reach that level and say, you know what, enough is enough. We're paying way too much. So Curtis is going to say, you know what, I'm working, I'm putting kids in daycare, and paying taxes, I don't get to bring anything home. So even though I enjoy working, forget about it. I'm getting the kids out of daycare and I'm going to be a stay-at-home father. And so someone who was willing to work but now is overburdened by taxes, it's going to quit. And Derek, who is our owner of small business, he realized that actually he can register his business up in Canada. All he needs to do is drive up to Canada once a month and still be selling goods here. And he gets to evade taxes here in the US. So he is going to move officially up there. And government doesn't get his taxes. Olivia has a local restaurant, and I've noticed that every time I go in there and I don't ask for a receipt, she doesn't issue a receipt. So basically what Olivia is doing is not reporting all of her sales, and that way she gets to save on taxes.
Oh.
So we got to a point where taxes are so high that we are finding ways of hiding our income or not working at all, and government ends up getting less from us. Right? So let's say we are somewhere here, all right? So we're somewhere here, we are paying extremely high taxes, and this is the dollar amount that the government gets. Then our new government says we are lowering taxes. The second we lower taxes, Curtis is going to say, you know what? I had enough of listening to these kids day after day after day. They're heading back to a daycare. I'm heading back to work. Now with these low taxes, I'm actually bringing quite a bit of money home. Derek is saying, you know what? I can't deal with this anymore. I have so many sleepless nights worrying that IRS will be knocking on my door. No way. With lower taxes now, it's not worth it anymore. It was worth it before, but not now with lower taxes. I'm going to start reporting all of my income. And Olivia is thinking the same way. You know what? I can't deal with this. I don't know if this guy is an inspector, if he's going to catch me sooner or later. So no way. I'm issuing receipts every time. And all of these people that I mentioned are honest people, but it's the system that forced them, pushed them to actually cheat. Now that the taxes are lowered, all of them are paying more in taxes and tax revenues are going up. So it's a win-win situation. All right? Government lowers taxes, we're all better off. We as people working and paying taxes, and government is better off because they're receiving more money. All right? As I said, it's a win-win situation. As Tyler said, how can anyone say anything against this theory? But what's the problem with this theory? The problem is, or Was anyone trying to answer that question?
Nope.
All right. The problem is that we start with the premise that we are on the right side of the Laffer curve. Right? The whole theory kind of assumes that we are on the right side of the Laffer curve, so lowering taxes will actually increase tax revenues. But if we are here on the left side of the Laffer curve, then that's really not gonna happen. Lowering taxes, well, Curtis was working anyway. Now he's just gonna bring more money home. Derek was working anyway here from the US. Olivia was issuing all the receipts. So the only thing that happened is with lower taxes, they get to bring more money home. Right? But government is not getting anything. Right? So back to you, Tyler. No, there is nothing wrong with the theory. Really, where the biggest problem comes from is the fact that all the politicians, really, and maybe the least Reagan, but definitely the politicians past him that were referencing this theory were referencing it based on an assumption that wasn't there. And that's where the criticism of the whole theory comes from. And I see your hand, Brett, but just want to go back to Tyler for a second. Is Tyler that answering your question?
Yeah, it's answering a lot because when I first found out about it or was aware of it, I wasn't. They were vague about the detail, and that's why I asked because I knew. Well, I was hoping you were going to do this, and I appreciate it. Because I mean, I'm not saying I'm not on your level of economy, but I appreciate some of your teachings, and it helps with what I'm reading as far as understanding and comprehending. And at the time when I saw and learned about this information, and I started researching myself. What started to happen was I'm like, okay, this is making sense, but why are people against it? So that was
exactly.
kind of
It does
me
make
for a loop.
perfect sense. It makes perfect sense, and you're right. You did understand the Laffer curve correctly, even originally, and it makes perfect sense. But then there is that follow-up question as to where we really stand within that Laffer curve. All right. Brett?
Yeah. So when you were saying about when taxes are lowered, and you gave the example, Olivia, Derek, everyone, they have more money. Like they have more money to take home. But did you say that meant lesser money for the government? Is that what you were saying?
Yes. So if we are here on the left side of the Laffer curve.
Okay.
Right? So what's going to happen is that the lower taxes are not going to really change your incentive. It's simply going to mean lower taxes home.
So could a problem to solve that? And I was just thinking about this, like if they're not able to be like taxed physically, as in like like 5, like 10, 15% of what you take home is taxed off. Could the government institute like a national sales tax on products to make up for that money that's not being taxed directly from them? It's being taxed indirectly from them. It's like I know some states like I know Delaware, they do a sales tax on everything, so that makes up in areas of their like tax bracket, I guess. So I didn't know if that would be a way to make up the gap if the government was really wanting to get money.
Well, there are many different ways that the government can get money from us.
Right.
So, yes, and wait a second, now you confuse me. Delaware doesn't have the sales tax.
Oh, I thought they did.
No, they're the state that doesn't. We have it here in Pennsylvania.
Oh, we do. Okay, I got you.
We do. And many states have it, but Delaware doesn't.
Okay.
I
They
thought we
have
didn't have tax on food.
what is
Yeah,
it?
when
Frederick?
sales tax, I don't want to give up more
I
money,
was just
especially
wondering.
being a small business owner. I don't want to give up the government. I don't want to give government more money. I want to give them less money.
Right. So, all right. So yes, I think we're all gonna agree that we don't want to give money to the government. That's
Agreed.
that. All right. But if you charge me 1%,
Mhm.
I'm not happy about it, but I'm gonna obey the law. All right. I'm definitely not gonna be risking getting caught for 1%. But if you charge me 50% of my income, well, I'm going to become creative and find ways to hide my income. All right. So, given the steep fees, I am going to adjust my behavior. Now, if I'm understanding correctly what you're saying, Brett, well, if you don't get the money through sales tax, I mean, through income tax, well, get it through something else. Some of the things that are in the tax of the states, you're saying, well, the federal government can implement those as well. Certainly they can, but again, that comes back to the idea, will that overburden us
Right.
to the point that we are not going to want to buy goods, right? So that would decrease the overall demand, all right?
Okay.
Now, every state, so we have income, federal income tax. States are organized in different ways. Every state has their own tax laws. Some states, as we do in Pennsylvania, we have income tax. Texas doesn't have income tax. If you live in Texas, you pay federal income tax, you don't pay state income tax. Right? Then,
I'm sorry.
then there's real estate tax. Right? Real estate tax usually finances the regional things. So it's your county or borough. But again, there are some states that have it on the state level. And then there is the sales tax. So in different ways, government will get money one way or the other. And really, the bottom line at the end for me, it doesn't matter how you got the money from me. You got the money from me. And the more money you take from me, the more I am gonna try not to give it to you and adjust my behavior. So, but yes, government, if you're proposing that government imposes a national sales tax to get more money from us and try to pay off the national debt, yes, that's a possibility. All right. So again,
Wouldn't that send
yes,
us?
there it is.
Wouldn't that okay? If they start now, if they're getting 1% and they're not getting much revenue, so they would have to tax us again in some kind of way. Well, wouldn't that
Yes.
bring us back to the point where we start hiding our money again?
Well,
The small business owners and
yes, of course. So all this is saying is that really the government sort of needs to find that optimal level, right? The optimal level of taxes. If you tax too much, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get more money. Right? All it means is that, people are going to start hiding. Now, as I said earlier, the Laffer curve is not necessarily symmetric. So it does depend on each individual society. It depends on time period. So the Laffer curve may look like this. Meaning, let's say that in the United States, well, we know that maybe it's a little bit of a stereotype, but US population is very individualistic population, very anti its own government. And in the United States, if you overall, let's say you passed 25% tax rate, people are going to start doing something and hide their income. All right? As opposed to maybe somewhere in Scandinavian countries where they're generally acceptable of their government and they think that government actually provides a lot of services, they may be perfectly okay paying 75% of their income, right? Because they perceive that, oh, we do pay all this money, but you know what? We have amazing roads. We have amazing hospitals that are free to us. We have amazing education, all right? Is it amazing compared to the US, or it's just their perception? That's irrelevant, all right? But the fact is that's how they perceive their country, how they perceive their government, and as a result, that peak is determined by their perception.
Oh, wow.
All right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the Laffer curve. Now, let's go back to aggregate supply, aggregate demand model. And basically, we can even start with full employment. So here is the long run aggregate supply. Here is aggregate demand, SRAS. So let's say that we even start with full employment equilibrium. Now, the supply side economists are saying, cut taxes. That's going to give people an incentive to work harder. Remember, Curtis will go back to work as opposed to sitting at home. So, supply curve will shift to the right. Right? Or think of Derek, who is a small owner. Now with lower taxes, he say, oh, this is a good time. My revenues are up. This is a good time to start expanding, hiring more people. Right? So there are all these incentives to work harder. Now, so the SRAS shifts to the right. Now the supply side economists are going a step further to say, you know what, if this tax cut is permanent, then Curtis will permanently be willing to be out and working. Derek will permanently wanna keep growing his business and staying here in the United States. So it's equivalent to saying that we have experienced economic growth, meaning that the long run aggregate supply curve has shifted to the right as well. So it's not only the short run impact, but the long run impact. Now, if you think, again, of the Laffer curve, basically what it's saying sort of, or again, I'm going to draw the graph before I continue talking. So I'm going to just take a second to see that everybody got this copied. Has any questions on this graph here? All right, so back to Laffer curve. It's almost like the oil taxes are like oil in the engine. There is an appropriate amount of oil in the engine. If you put too much, you're going to flood the engine, right? Or if taxes are too high, then people are not going to have an incentive to work. And if taxes are too low, well, government could have gotten more money, but they're not because they're keeping taxes too low. So there is an optimal level of taxes out there. Okay. Now, as I said, politicians grabbed the napkin and rushed back to the Capitol Hill and are promoting this theory. There is, up to today, it's really not a topic that was thoroughly researched. And the running joke is that every economist is fully aware that we are not nearly close to the peak or anywhere on the right side. So the running joke is that we're probably somewhere here, which would imply that if some economists research that, their conclusion would be that they would need to raise taxes to optimize the revenues, and no economist wants to be remembered as the one that brought us higher taxes. All right, that's a joke, economics joke. But anyway, so that's the premise or idea behind the Laffer curve. All right. Now, looking back through 80s, when we had higher taxes and more regulations, and not to mention UK, that was very much overburdened by regulations, lowering taxes, so the policies that were put in place by especially Margaret Thatcher, but also by Reagan, did have a stimulative impact on the US and UK's economy. Right? So there is no doubt that, yes, overburdening the economy is not a good thing, and you do need to find that balance. Right? Now, that whole criticisms again of the theory is that let's be real and focus on the fact that there is an optimal rather than always be focusing on the idea that lower taxes will make us better, because we may not necessarily be on the right side of the Laffer curve. Okay? Also, some of the criticisms of this Laffer curve, well, and it's not necessarily a Laffer curve, but the time period, is that while 80s did bring growth, they've also contributed to greater divide. In other words, from the 80s on, we do observe in the US the disappearance of the middle class and the increase of haves and have-nots. The richer, as they were saying, the richer were getting richer and the poorer were getting poorer. Right? So that is associated with that time period. So not necessarily to criticize Laffer curve, but some of the policies and deregulations did actually benefit the growth at the expense of masses. All right. Any questions on that? Any comments?
None.
None. All right. I did my
Professor.
yes.
You gave a
Do
great
you-
explanation. Thank you.
In regards to the Laffer curve, do you think we're on the left or the right side?
I was going to ask that too. Thank you
Yeah.
for asking that.
I got you, Tyler.
I think we are on the left side. I think we are pretty up high on the left side. But when I say up high, I mean, that's the perception of the US population, right? So no, US taxes are not actually that high, relatively speaking, to other countries. But what matters is that perception. And also what matters is the possibilities. All right. Possibilities means, are there Cayman Islands out there or not? If there are, then any tax in the US is too high if you can actually take that money and hide it in some of those tax havens. Right? So that matters as well. 1% may be too high if tax havens are close enough and we can all put money over there, then no one will be keeping it in the US. But if taxes are at 50% and we just have no abilities to move money around, then it won't matter. But still, I think US population-wise, I think it is high enough to what government can get from the US population. could go maybe a little bit more higher, maybe not much. But it's not high enough to significantly alter people's behavior. Again, on average, certainly my behavior is less likely to change than a big corporation's behavior.
And again, like that's in regards to our to our taxes, but with this inflation, it almost feels like that in itself is a tax. So it's like
that is a hidden tax. Yes,
Yeah.
that's how it's called, the hidden tax. Absolutely. And actually, I know you asked me that question, and I already now revealed my answer. But would you share your opinion, Brent? Do
you mean in regards to what side would be on?
Yes.
Yeah, I would definitely have agreed we're on the left side. Just because like yeah, with this like how I just brought up with the idea of inflation, it's like a secret tax really because like if we would increase taxes, we would suffer. You know, like everyone would suffer majorly because you know the inflation's already so high on so many products and so many goods that people just need to live, like just like basic stuff. So if the taxes would go up, yeah, no, Americans would suffer. So I would agree that we're on the left side and lowering taxes isn't really going to help. Like it's not going to help many different areas in which government can help people, as in like with Social Security for people, which correct me if I'm wrong, but Social Security is that in regards to retirement?
Yes.
Yeah.
So like okay, so like you have less money then coming in, you know, for Social Security. So it's like we're in a really tight spot right now in terms of our economy. Because it's hard because if you increase it, everyone suffers. But if you decrease it, Social Security and people that actually have worked their butts off for over 50 some years, it you know, it's they don't get benefits. So it's like what do we do? You know, it's like yeah.
Yes, you are absolutely right. And again, not to get too much into it, but I think that the last night's election results are and are direct answer to this. Because first, let's be realistic, and this is a macro class, so I want to talk from macro's class. U.S. economy is doing exceptionally well from the macro's perspective. We've been talking about a recession and recession for years, and it's not happening. United States is still growing, unlike its developed nations partners, Germany, that is struggling through a recession for the last 2 years. So US is growing. Unemployment rate is unbelievably low, and inflation is under control.
Right.
Productivity of US population is, I've read somewhere, about 30% higher than the G7 countries, meaning the Canada, some Western European countries, because Japan as well. So US is just leaving other countries behind. That's very impressive. On a macro level, we're doing exceptionally well. Of course, not a single voter is thinking on the macro level.
Right.
I have a
Voter
But
thinking.
you want to see it. You want to see it too.
Yes.
Not just the macro level. People want to see it on a realistic level.
Exactly. So we are thinking of our pockets. And
so on a micro level.
On micro level. And even though inflation is under control, what that means that prices are not going to grow from now on as fast as they were growing. But the fact remains that prices were growing significantly in last few years. And we are actually, the purchasing power is or was going down. Right? So when we're thinking is what was happening during the Biden's administration economics-wise? Well, actually, in some aspects, Biden administration did economically way better than Trump's administration, the old administration. All right.
Professor,
Yes.
I have a question. Okay, going back to when it was the businesses, right? And if you notice the way that they was making revenue is shrinkflation. If you notice the products and that we was getting, we wasn't getting as much in
Yeah.
the
I
product,
brought that up in the store.
but the price didn't change. You know,
I
Yeah.
talked about that with water. There's less water and more air in the water bottles. There's more
Yeah.
air in chip bags and less chips.
Yep.
It's
a
happening in a lot of
travesty.
products.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
when we look at the amount, because they changed the amount, the ounces and whatever, and that's the way that they was able to not raise prices but give you less.
Yes.
And
Yes.
then, so that was one of the ways that businesses was trying to keep their prices down. I mean, their profits up.
Yes, absolutely. So, in addition to raising prices, they can provide you with lower quantity and also lower quality. That's lower quantity you may even observe, but lower quality you may not. And that's even worse. But yes, what you're saying, Tyler, and what Curtis and Tyler, at some point we were comparing Folgers, that canister can, whatever, and it was the new one, same price, right? But it was like literally this much shorter, smaller than the older one. So that was exactly kind of adjustment that you don't observe it unless you compare it to the older one. So absolutely.
But in a way, I would rather have that in a way because they taking a small portion. I see them beat me, but beat me a little, but don't kill me. You know what I mean?
Do
It's
it
like,
slowly. Do it slowly over time.
yeah, don't just take me out.
For me to change my habits, because definitely changing habits, right?
Yeah, that'd be one less cup that I drink a day, or
Right.
5 or 7 chips that I might not eat.
It may even be
I
helpful.
just got one question.
It may
Professor, I
even
got
help
one
you with your health, right? If you skip those 7 chips.
Yeah.
Tyler, go ahead.
Not to linger on the Laffer curve, but you brought up the one of your only negatives was how it creates a divide within society as far as have and have nots. I'm kind of thinking that we're getting to that point now. So if we're kind of get to that point now where the middle class is starting to dissipate a little bit, what will be the difference if we're already at that point?
So you're saying that's happening. So let's implement the Laffer curve. That's what you're saying?
If we were, since it's happening already, that the middle class is going away,
well,
would that still make you think twice about the whole lot?
Yeah, middle class was going away from the 80s on. Now, all right, I did bring that up and I said, well, that too was happening during that time. I'm not saying the link is definitely there. So I don't want to kind of connect those two and be responding in that sense. So just focusing on the Laffer curve. I don't have anything against Laffer curve. Laffer curve is a parabola and it does make perfect sense. The problem is that when politicians start advocating some of these policies, they're advocating by assuming something that may or may not be there, meaning they assume that we are overburdened. But
Yeah.
if they have proved that we are overburdened, then yes, lowering taxes will benefit us.
Because I figured a reason why they never really tested his theory was because of the Reagan era he was in, and because of his education. I mean, the man went to Stanford and went to Yale. So when I saw that, that's when I was like, okay, that's probably why he doesn't get a lot of questions. Besides them trying to belittle him, is because the man on paper looks pretty legit. I mean, I'm gonna listen to a professor from Stanford or Yale, you know. So I'm just saying.
Plus, he was a good movie star too.
Yeah.
I don't,
Reagan was a movie star. Yes, Reagan was a actor primarily. So anyway, all right. It is all right. This is a wonderful discussion, and I do wish we can do more of this. But it is 9:05, and I do want to just bring your attention to the handout that is uploaded. So some of you may already have it printed or have seen it, but there is the handout dealing with taxes. And I'm just going to bring your attention to a few things there, because you do need to know that for the exam, but actually not all of it. So that's all right, taxes. Share it now.
I saw that yawn, Brad.
no, you didn't.
Okay.
All right, so taxes, deficits, and debts. Some of this we already talked about. Here is basically just more of a summary. So, major source of tax revenue for the federal government. The information is here, but you're not responsible for it on the exam. So here it is, just if you want to look at that. Tax structure, you do need to know these three. Tax structure, progressive, regressive, and proportional. Progressive, the percent of income paid increases as income increases. That's how our federal income tax is structured. The more you earn, the more you pay percentage-wise. Regressive would mean the more you earn, the less you pay, and proportional would be a flat tax. Right? Now, regressive tax, of course, nobody will explicitly state this. The richer you are, the less you're going to pay. And if you're poor, you're going to pay a lot. But our state tax, in a way, is quite regressive. Right? Now, when I say state tax, that includes income tax and the sales tax and some of the fees that you are paying in DMV and something like that. So, let's think of sales tax. If I buy something and Bill Gates buys that same product, we are going to pay the same amount in taxes because it is a percent of the selling price. But if you take that that tax as a percent of my income versus his income, you'll notice that I paid way more in taxes percentage-wise. So in that sense, it is regressive. Or if I go to DMV to renew my driver's license and Bill Gates goes to DMV to renew his driver's license, we're going to pay the same amount for renewing that driver's license. Now, that fee that you pay for it is something that goes to the state. So generally, it's thought of as a tax. Right? So again, I'm paying more percentage-wise than people with higher income. Right? All right. So progressive, regressive, proportional. Then we come down to major government spending programs. Again, just a list of items to know for yourself, not on the exam. Deficits and national debt. We already talked about deficit and national debt. Deficit is within the single year. Debt is the accumulated deficit. Right? So every year we owe money. We contribute to our national debt. What's the difference between cyclical and structural? Cyclical is due to business cycles. Let's say that we decide to balance the budget this year, and then halfway through the year, we run into a recession or we enter a health pandemic. What happens then? Government has no choice but to spend more money, gets it into deficit. So cyclical deficit is something that goes up and down over time. Structural deficit is when government upfront decides they're going to spend more money. Right? And that's the problem deficit. All right, now burden of the debt. As I may have told you already, most of the US debt is still internally held, and that's a good news. Right? So that's a good news that the debt is internally held. But increasing percent of US debt is externally held, and that's what concerns us. Is it a big deal that we have a debt? Does the current generation bear the burden? How about future generations, and what's the benefit of it? Well, every time we borrow money and we don't pay it right away, we push that burden onto future generations. Now, if we spend money to get us out of current crisis, then that's we're benefiting ourselves, but pushing burden on future generations, that's not really fair. On the other side, if we invest money in rebuilding roads, improving our education, well, who is going to benefit from it? Future generations. So maybe it is okay to leave that burden onto them. All right? Again, this handout just includes really quite a bit of information that's more just to kind of ponder on, think about it. Very few things you need to know for the actual exam. All right, it is 9:12. So I'm gonna quickly assign the remaining of the homework. There is a quiz, so let me not forget to say about that. All right, so the homework assignment that is due next class meeting, that's Monday, are pages 177 and 178, 181 and 182, and 185 and 186. That's the homework that's due on Monday. I have also uploaded the Keynesian quiz that I told you last class period that I will upload. So it is uploaded, available in 2 minutes for you and due by the beginning of next class meeting. All right. Next class meeting, we really have the entire class to talk about the homework, to talk about the practice exam, and to do any review that you want me to review, whatever you want me to answer. So make sure you get your questions ready. And if you guys want to discuss just anything regarding macroeconomics, that would also be a good class. We should have some extra time. Okay, make sense? All right, it was an excellent class, excellent contributions. So thanks to those that have contributed. I want all of you to put your name in the private chat area, and that's your in-class points for today. All right. Curtis, were you asking something?
I hit the wrong button. Well, I was about to say thank you, but you were still talking.
All right. Thank you. Well, anyway, guys, it's 9:14, so feel free to start logging out unless you have a question for me.
I put Brad. I direct messaged you, Brad. Is that okay, or would you like me to put my full name? Okay,
that's fine.
But yeah, Professor, why do you think that a lot of times, like, just given, I'm trying to think of how to word it. Like with our economy, like you said, like our economy is booming, like in terms of like we're doing well. Do you think the reason why a lot of times people don't necessarily believe that is just because of the inflation, because people are suffering, so they don't really see the bigger picture?
Well, in recent years, yes, I think that's one of the major factors.
Right.
First, purchasing power of many people did go down as a result of inflation.
Right.
And even with people whose income was keeping up to where their purchasing power didn't go down, United States population hasn't seen this high of inflation since 70s.
Since the 70s, yeah.
Yes. So basically, we're not used to changing prices, right? And if you go in the store today and you go tomorrow and the price is 10% higher, that's what you focus on. And you say, oh, wow, prices are up. Maybe your boss gave you a 10% raise, so it doesn't really matter to you. But that drastic change is kind of what bothers you a lot.
Right.